James first met Laura on a misty Friday morning at a small cafe on the corner of Maple Street. He was there for his usual espresso, rushing to get back to his office, barely noticing the people around him. But this time, as he scanned the crowded cafe, his eyes caught a glimpse of someone different. Laura stood by the counter, her dark hair tumbling over her shoulders, her gaze fixed on the barista. She was a stranger, yet somehow, she felt familiar. James knew he shouldn't have walked over, yet something beyond his control pulled him closer. As he passed her, she turned, and their eyes met. For a brief moment, the bustling cafe melted away, leaving only the silence of two strangers finding a connection that felt timeless. "Hi," he said, his voice softer than usual. "Hi," Laura replied, a shy smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. They exchanged a few polite words, but there was an unspoken understanding, a pull neither of them could ignore. James couldn't stay long, he was expected back at work, and he knew his wife was likely to call him soon. But he left the cafe that day with Laura's number scribbled hastily on a napkin, a symbol of a choice he knew he shouldn't be making. Days passed, and he couldn't get her out of his mind. He would catch himself thinking about her laugh, the way she brushed her hair back when she talked. Each time he picked up his phone to call her, he'd put it back down, torn between his loyalty to his family and this inexplicable desire that had taken root deep within him. Finally, one evening, after a particularly strained dinner at home, he gave in. His fingers dialed her number, and before he could change his mind, he heard her voice on the other end, warm and inviting. They talked for hours, sharing stories of their lives, dreams, and even secrets. There was an ease between them that made him feel alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, James found himself spending more time with Laura, meeting in quiet cafes, hidden corners of the park, places where no one would recognize them. With each meeting, their connection grew stronger, deeper, and so did the intensity of their unspoken bond. Every glance, every accidental brush of their hands, carried a weight of longing that words couldn't capture. One rainy evening, they met at a small art gallery, its dim lighting casting a warm glow over the paintings. Laura admired a piece, a landscape of golden fields under a stormy sky. James stood beside her, feeling his heart beat faster with each moment he spent in her presence. "I wish I could stay here, with you, forever," he whispered, his voice thick with a mixture of longing and guilt. Laura looked up at him, her eyes searching his. "So do I," she replied softly, her hand resting gently on his arm. The tension between them was undeniable, a magnetic pull that neither of them could resist. Their faces were so close now, close enough for him to feel her breath against his skin. But as he leaned in, reality struck. He pulled back, a mixture of pain and frustration in his eyes. "I can't do this, Laura. I have a family, a wife who trusts me," he said, his voice trembling. Laura looked away, her face a mixture of disappointment and understanding. "I know, James. I know," she replied, fighting back tears. "But what if, in another life, we could have been together?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with all the things they couldn't say. They stood there in silence, their hands inches apart, unwilling to let go but knowing they had no choice. Their meetings grew less frequent after that. They both knew this was something that could never last, a love born out of longing but trapped by circumstances. Yet, each time they saw each other, even if just in passing, a spark would ignite, a reminder of the connection they shared. One day, James found a letter waiting for him in his office, a simple, handwritten note from Laura. "James, we both know this can't go on. I care about you too much to watch you tear yourself apart. You have a family to take care of, a life to return to. But know this, I will always remember you, and the love we could never have." It was the last time he would hear from her. Months turned into years, and though he went back to his life, his family, he never forgot her. Every now and then, he would visit that old cafe on Maple Street, hoping for a glimpse of her, even if only for a moment. In the end, James understood that some loves are destined to remain unspoken, tucked away in the corners of our hearts, never fully realized but forever cherished. Years passed, yet Laura remained a soft, bittersweet presence in James's heart. He went on with his life, focusing on his family and the responsibilities he had long chosen to prioritize. Still, there were moments, quiet, fleeting moments, when memories of her would surface, catching him off guard. One winter, as he walked through the city streets adorned with holiday lights, he felt an overwhelming sense of longing. He had always loved his wife, respected her, shared a life and family with her. But Laura had awakened something in him, a reminder of who he used to be, a version of himself he hadn't seen in years, a man unburdened by roles and responsibilities, someone driven by passion. On New Year's Eve, he went to that small art gallery where they had once stood side by side, gazing at the stormy landscape painting. He didn't expect her to be there, of course. But as he stepped into the quiet gallery, a sense of peace washed over him. It was as if her presence lingered there, timeless and unchanged, whispering to him in a way no one else ever could. He wandered the gallery, each painting igniting memories of their moments together. In that silence, he understood that their connection hadn't disappeared, it had simply transformed. He realized he could carry her memory with him, not as a weight of regret, but as a reminder of a love that had shown him new depths of feeling. Years turned into decades, and one evening, as he sat in his old armchair, he shared the story of his lost love with his grandson. He spoke not of regret, but of gratitude for the fleeting time he had shared with someone who had seen him for who he was, and who he could have been. She taught me that some loves are like stars, he said softly. They shine bright, even if they're far away, unreachable. And with that, he knew he had found peace with the unspoken love he would always carry with him, a memory that burned softly, eternally, in the quiet corners of his heart. As James shared this story with his grandson, he felt a weight lift, one he hadn't even realized he was still carrying. His grandson listened intently, watching the way his grandfather's eyes softened, revealing a tenderness that was rarely seen. "Did she ever know how much she meant to you?" his grandson asked. James smiled, gazing out the window where the evening sky had faded into a deep indigo. He thought about Laura, wondering if somewhere, somehow, she had sensed the love he had held for her all these years, even in silence. "I think she did," he answered. Sometimes, love doesn't need to be spoken to be understood. Some connections are so deep, they just live in you, no matter where life takes you. A calm settled over him as he realized that his love for Laura had never been about possession or a need to be together. It had been about feeling alive, about understanding himself in a way he couldn't explain. And he had carried that feeling with him, woven into his life in a way that added richness and depth to every moment he shared with his family. In the days that followed, James felt an unexpected lightness. He had honored Laura in the only way he could, by living fully, by cherishing the life he had chosen and allowing himself to appreciate the beauty of a love that had, for a moment, burned so brightly. When he finally passed, his family found a small notebook tucked away in his drawer. Inside, he had written only a few simple lines. "To Laura, the one I could never have, yet always held close. Thank you for showing me the colors of my own heart." And with that, James's story ended, but his memory lived on, a man who had embraced the beauty of both loyalty and longing, who understood that some loves, though unfulfilled, were gifts in themselves, shaping the heart, deepening the soul, and leaving behind a light that would never truly fade.